Slow down, take a breath, smile, or not, and be captured forever. There's one phenomenon created out of the Occupy Wall Street movement, beginning with its birth in Zuccotti Park on September 17th, 2011, that certainly caught my attention, perhaps yours, and that's the ways in which this movement has been captured by the camera lens. It seemed that everyone literally was taking pictures of everything and anything and everyone that moved, marched, or carried a sign. And these, of course, ended up populating endless Facebook pages. But I'm not talking about those photographers. I'm talking about the true professionals, the cameramen and women who know the difference between an f-stop and shutter speed. Theirs is not a random point and shoot, but a determined hunt to catch exactly what moment in time will express the essence of an Occupy action. So we're fortunate to have such a person here on 15 Minutes of Fact today, and that's Tracie D. Williams. We found her today in Sydney, Australia, where she has a show called Beauty. Welcome to the show today, Tracie.
Well, thank you for having me, Jerry.
Well, it's a pleasure. Now, the last I heard, I was coming across you several times during Occupy, but I heard you were in the Rockaways on Long Island documenting Hurricane Sandy, and now you're down in Australia. How did this come about? Are you going to be coming back to return that work? What's going on?
All right, well, yeah, I will most certainly be coming back to the Rockaways to document the impact of Hurricane Sandy. In particular, the resilient neighborhood surrounding Beach 113, Yana, the community center that literally opened its doors 1 week prior to the storm, and the amazing volunteers of Restore the Rock and Occupy Sandy who've been on the ground running days following the storm to assist with immediate needs, who have now transitioned to more long-term recovery. But I ventured all the way down under because I was accepted as a featured exhibitor at the Head On Photo Festival here in Sydney. It's the second largest festival in the world, and I found myself in the company of some of the most amazing photographers.
Well, speaking of amazing company, let's talk about you as being an amazing person to have in one's company. Now, I know that you're a New Mexico native. You seem to be at home anywhere in the world, although you're based in New York. You also have called Melbourne, Australia as home. What is it? You can't stay in one place?
Oh, I think I've got itchy feet, definitely.
Must be it.
Look, yeah, Jerry, I've always had an intense passion for travel. My parents divorced when I was very young. My father lived on the East Coast and my mother in the Southwest, so I was able to have a taste of two entirely different worlds growing up. I started traveling unaccompanied on planes at the age of 4, and from that point forward, I became this independent, inquisitive traveler that I am today. I was actually born on vacation, but that's a whole other story we can get into another time.
Well, you know what's also interesting, being a parent and having had a divorce and children involved, you don't really know the impact that's going to have on a child. In your case, you turned out to be a very resilient, competent person, and having the benefit of living in two worlds, the East Coast and the Southwest, actually added to who you are now.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. In those situations, you definitely have to take what you can from them, and it's definitely made me a whole person.
Well, let's go to your profession, where you term yourself a street photographer, but you can also be considered a social documentarian. So explain the distinctions between those two and tell our listeners what motivates you as an image maker.
Yeah, certainly. Look, as a street photographer, I appreciate the beautiful and the weird observations that are captured in a fraction of a second. As a social documentarian, my intent is to shape emotive, provocative essays that create an awareness outside of oneself. Sometimes I'm fueled by social justice. These fuel my motives, but ultimately my objective is for my viewers to just take a moment, slow down and think.
Well, I know one thing that causes people to think, and that's what is termed defining moments in people's lives. And that's that instant in which we truly understand who we are, where we are, and what we must do about it. Did you have something like that experience while documenting Occupy Wall Street?
Yeah. I think one of the most defining moments, I would have to say, would be on November 15, 2001. 2011. That was the 2 days shy of Occupy Wall Street's 2-month anniversary, and the night that the raid of the encampment took place. I think November 15, 2011, 2 days shy of Occupy Wall Street's 2-month anniversary, the raid of the encampment is one of the most definitive moments for me as a photographer, and I think for the movement as a whole. When news spread of the imminent raid, supporters found themselves unable to reach the park and its perimeters due to bridge, road, and public transportation closures. Journalists, including NYPD press-credentialed media, were forcibly removed from the park, and those on the outskirts were denied access. I, however, remained in the park almost until the very end and managed to evade arrest. This was the first time I witnessed the heavy hand of the NYPD and peaceful protesters at the receiving end of police batons. Every item in the park was tossed into sanitation trucks, including medical supplies and 5,000 library books. And after observing multiple violations of our civil liberties, excessive force by the state, and complete disregard for humanity within that 24-hour time frame, it became clear to me that what documenting this movement as an embedded photographer would require of me personally, physically, and emotionally. Essentially, I had to give it my all.
You know what angers me quite a bit is the fact that that passion of yours is not shared by mainstream media journalists who should be outraged by the fact that even with their credentials, they would not be allowed to see a police action like that take effect. And it takes someone like you, as someone who's experiencing it and not credentialed. This is the humorous part. What we call journalists today are nothing more than mouthpieces for mainstream media, and what passes for people that are just amateurs are the ones who are truly making the difference. Now, I can understand that you're not new to investing your time and soul into your work, especially when it deals to little understood or unheralded causes. Now, you, I know, produced a body of work called Broken Bodies, Broken Hearts, based on 2 years that you were in Laos. Now, tell us about that early experience and how that might reflect on what you were experiencing in Occupy.
Yeah, certainly. Well, I first traveled to Southeast Asia in 2000, and I was appalled to discover the tremendous impact that America had on Laos, a small nation I had previously heard little to nothing about. Essentially, during the Vietnam War, a plane load of bombs were dropped on Laos every 9 minutes for 9 years. 200 million cluster munitions, which are essentially like landmines, but they're small, they're tennis ball shaped, drop from the sky, and they're supposed to arm upon rotation and detonate upon impact. They were cast over Laos, and approximately 70 million of these cluster munitions still remain littering Laos landscape today, and they're still impacting on the lives of the local Lao people. I knew that now, having gained knowledge such as this, that I would have to, that something had to be done, that I felt empowered not only to share this with others, but also to engage them. Ignorance is one thing, but apathy is another. In 2007, I finally had the financial opportunity to go back to Laos. So I started my long-term photographic journey and self-funded project, The Broken Bodies, Broken Hearts, documenting the impact of the CIA-led secret war waged on Laos. In 2009, I moved back to Laos, and I was actively involved in the international campaign to ban cluster munitions, as well as assisted with the development of the Lao Ban Advocates, which are a group of cluster munition survivors who advocate on behalf of the Cluster Munition Convention locally and internationally.
The fact that they have to exist is appalling, and you've more than established the fact why it's important for people like yourself to be published as an independent media maker. So what is it about being able to get out the word that either you don't choose to be on mainstream media or you can't find yourself on there?
I know it's a little bit of a control freak in me, Jerry. Independent publishing allows me, the photographer, to share with you, the public, the content I would like to share without censorship. There's no roadblocks, no gatekeepers, no corporate influence. It's just me and you.
Well, speaking of publishing, let's end this show with a few words from you on an upcoming book that you're producing. That's called Love and Rage. Now, this is about Occupy, I believe, and it's a title that didn't come out of thin air, so tell us about it.
Yes, it's a photo book, documentation of the first year of Occupy Wall Street. I essentially documented the movement daily, living an activist transient life. Well, as for the name, Love and Rage, if there's one thing that Occupy Wall Street loves, it's listservs. And on emails, instead of closing with things like all the best or many thanks, people would close with things like love and solidarity or love and rage. And that was the first time I actually came across the phrase. Upon further research, I discovered Love and Rage was both a network of anarchists, activists, and a British-Irish-German drama film of romantic obsession turned violent. But to me, Love and Rage and the range of emotions in between encapsulates what I have witnessed as well as felt during the course of documenting this movement. If you can't see the beauty in this mad world around you and at the same time feel outraged, then you're numb. And when you don't feel, you're complacent. And complacency is society's worst enemy.
Well, you're not going to be ever gossiped about as being someone who's complacent. Let's talk a bit about your peers. Now, it must be lonely, but then again, maybe it's not. How do you connect with other journalists or photojournalists? Do you have any that you know about that you appreciate for their capabilities?
Yeah, most definitely. It's a different network that you have with other photographers, and those photographers that were there in the field with me out in the streets, we developed a bond because we looked after each other. I've had many photographer friends pull me out of situations where I've gotten my head stepped on by the NYPD, and also activists as well. But there's a different kind of connection I have with my colleagues.
And what role does social media play in all this?
In getting the message out there, or?
Yeah, exactly. How does it further your work and their work as well?
It allows it to get to a greater audience quickly. Something it doesn't have that filter. You put it out there, and then people are able to access it.
Well, that's what we do here on 15 Minutes of Fact. You're definitely unfiltered.
Okay, oh God.
And I like that. Well, Tracie, I can't thank you enough for your time and for the important work that you're performing.
Thank you.
Well, it's a pleasure. Mm-hmm. And for those of your listeners who would like to know more about Tracie Williams and her work, you can go to her website, I don't know why I say that anymore, Tracie D. Williams, spelled Tracie D. Williams.com, all one word, or by way of email, TracieD, TraciD.Williams@gmail.com. Now, my own friends and followers can find me here at WGRNradio.com, on Facebook as Jerry Ashton, LinkedIn with the same name, on Twitter as @WrittenOffUSA, and by the way, I reached 5,000 Twitter followers this morning, so that was pretty exciting.
Congratulations.
And of course, congratulations. I need a picture of that. Oh, yes, and at the Huffington Post where I blog, and where more than likely your story will end up as well. So, Tracie, thank you once again.
Thank you, Jerry, so much.